Hello and welcome back to Behind the Sirens SA. I am Nomty Mvula, your host and an emergency care practitioner. First off, let me say Happy New Year. It is 2025 and I'm so excited to continue this journey with you. And a new year is actually a time for a fresh start, new beginnings, and what a better way to start with a topic that defines the essence of emergency care, saving lives. Today, we are diving into a question: what does it really take to save a life? And I'll be sharing personal stories. Most of you probably don't know me, but I'm just gonna share a little bit about myself. So buckle up because this one is going to be very powerful. Before we jump into today's topic, as I said, let me take you back where it all began for me. So becoming an emergency care practitioner basically isn't just about getting a qualification. It's at least not for me. It wasn't about that. I started as a basic life support, but I never worked as a basic life support. Instead, after staying a few months, realizing that I'm not getting a job as a basic life support, I went back to school and did auxiliary nursing. But fast forward few months while I was working as an auxiliary nurse, I felt that no, this is not my environment. I knew that I always wanted to be out there and saving lives as a frontliner, but being a BLS was not really gonna let me do that fully. So, lucky me, I was then elected and be given a bursary, which took me into a 2-year qualification and obtain emergency care technician qualification. Of course. Sorry for bragging, but I did excel to a point that I knew, or I was told, that there will be a bridging program, and in that bridging program, if you make it or if you pass, then you'll be given an opportunity to join the emergency care practitioner program at University of Johannesburg. And I didn't sleep in that opportunity, to be honest. I took it with both hands and ran. I remember that I got that call to say I must apply for the bridging. I was at home in KZN. I took the first taxi to say I'm coming back and I'm gonna apply to make sure that I am getting into that program. And I did get in. It was not an easy program at all. It was not easy. It was very, very difficult. If I recall, I'm not standing corrected. I think maybe only 3 of us made it, if not 2, because the course was extremely difficult. Fast forward again, I then enrolled into Bachelor of Health Sciences of Johannesburg. To tell you the story, it was not easy. There were days whereby I would just felt like, what am I doing here? I mean, I already have a qualification, which was ECT, so I might as well just continue work as an ECT. Like, there were days where I felt like I don't belong here, because believe me, it was not easy. You know, the training was intense, you know, countless simulations, going into practicals every weekend, you know. But I'm glad today that I didn't end up giving up. And there were people that know me and people that didn't really know me, you know, my family and those that I was working with at the moment, who were there to just keep me going. You know, they kept on encouraging me. Some of them will even take me to the swimming pool, because that was my worst struggle. You know, I couldn't swim no matter what. I was so scared of water, to a point that at some point I remember this time I think I failed my swimming with 3 seconds. I was like 3 seconds out, and obviously there is a fail. In that course there is no, like, we feel sorry for you because you were just 3 seconds. No, you know what is required is required, and if you out, whether with a second or 3 seconds, you out. That day I jumped out of the water, I got into the car, and I drove home, and I was like, I am done. But being surrounded by support, the professor, the lecturers, everyone, like, that knew that I was there, they called me. They're like, no, you don't have to give up. Other students that were with me, they were like, no, you don't have to give up. And again, I'm glad I didn't. But basically, that's what happened. And I ended up making it and became an emergency care practitioner, which was 2018. So that is how then I became an emergency care practitioner. But the background of just joining emergency medical care, for me, it's not a nice story. It started when my mom was involved in a car accident. It was actually my mom and my little brother, and they died on scene, according to the report that we got. I was still not clued up about emergency medical care, but that moment stood with me and made me wonder, and always had that question that maybe if EMS had been there in time, they could have saved them. So it's quite an emotional and very personal story for me. And even till today, I don't delay a call. I don't care whether the call comes and I'm doing what. I drop everything. When that radio talks to me, I drop everything and I am out. Because, as I said, I always felt, even still today, I do think that maybe they were gonna be fine if EMS had arrived in time, despite the fact that the area that they had accident in was just in the middle of nowhere, which is understandable that EMS maybe didn't delay, but because of how far they were from the city, that's how it all unfolds. Or not forgetting God's plan again. Maybe it was God's plan, but to me, it still says, because I'm here, I don't want any other family or any other child to experience that and think that, my mom or my family member would have been saved should the EMS personnel had arrived in time. So yeah, it's quite a very personal thing for me, and which is why I call it a calling for me. It's not a job, it is a calling. And those that know me personally, always, they know, even till today, they know if we get a call, we'll go to the call. We don't really ask much, we just get the details and we'll find out when we get there. I don't have time to argue about why me, who's there, who's not there. I just go to the call and try and go save a life. For me, obtaining a emergency care practitioner was not just about getting a qualification. It was more about stepping into the world where every decision that I'll make matters. As much as I explained, we receive rigorous training of countless simulations. Every moment in that course is designed to prepare you for the unexpected. But honestly, nothing can truly prepare you for that first call. So I still remember, like, my first high pressure case just after I qualified, despite the fact that I had experience as an ECT, but as an ECT, you're not really first line, you're not obliged to take decisions because probably there's a ALS there or there's an ECP already. But then on that day, I was the ECP and I was first on scene. And when I approached the accident, it was multiple vehicles. There was smoke everywhere. It's what caught me. And the threatening cries from the vehicles, people crying for help. Remember, as an emergency care practitioner, you're mostly alone. And yes, I was alone. And, the weight of knowing that it was up to me to stabilize the patients, until other vehicles arrive, it came to my mind to say that smoke, which means we might burn, those vehicles might go into fire if I don't do anything. But again, thanks to the training that I received, because emergency care practitioner, actually you trained in different kinds of emergencies, including rescue. And going forward, we're still gonna dive deep into what is it that you are actually trained for as an emergency care practitioner. So at that moment, it was the time that I should just practice rescue first before initiating emergency medical care. And I did just that. I had to know where exactly was the batteries, to disconnect them. I needed to switch off those engines. I needed to do the rescue first before I even initiated medical care, which is this qualification means everything, and I am grateful for it. And just to say, it was that moment when I realized that saving a life isn't just about medical procedures. It's about composure, it's about compassion. It is also like you need clarity under pressure. Even when you're under pressure, you need to calm down, but also you don't have time. So that's what this profession is all about. People often ask me what's a typical day like as an emergency care practitioner. Well, let me tell you, there is no such thing as typical in this line of work. I might start my shift with the normal routine of checking equipment, making sure that I have all the medications that I need for the day, nothing is expired, and then the radio goes off and I am out racing to a building that is on fire and they require assistance, medical assistance. Or maybe I just get a call and I have to respond to a critical medical emergency in someone's home. One moment stood out for me. It was a 4 a.m. call, an infant struggling to breathe. That was the brief I got. And I'll never forget the mother's panic as I walked into that house. Time felt like it has stopped, but in reality, I only had minutes to act. And I walked, I saw that the baby color was not pink, it was bluish. I started checking the airway, giving oxygen and stabilizing the child. I knew then that everything I had to do had to be precise. So when that baby finally took a deep breath, like a deep, clear breath, the relief in that room was palpable, and everyone was looking at me as if I'm there to perform a miracle. And the pressure that I was feeling, I can't explain it, but that's what this job is. It is intense, it is rewarding and humbling all at once. As an emergency care practitioner, that's a day in my life. So what does it really take to save a life? Beyond the medical skills, it's really about decision making, staying calm under pressure, and actually having a deep sense of empathy. You know, there's a saying in emergency care: your calm is their calm, meaning that if I panic, the situation escalates. But if I stay composed, it's easier to guide the patient and their loved ones through the crisis. So I'll give you an example. A few months ago, that will be in 2024, I was called in a workplace injury, you know. So the patient was trapped and bleeding, and understandably, the guy was like terrified, thinking that he's gonna lose his limbs or one of his limbs, just um, to put you in the picture. So my job then wasn't just to treat the patient physically, you know, but it was for me to reassure him or let him know that they're not alone, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that they are okay, you know. So it's actually moments like this that remind me why am I in emergency medical care, because I need to now think beyond just um, treating the emergency. And compassion is vital as any medical tool. Over the years being in emergency medical field, I have learned a lot, you know. But one of the biggest lessons that I have learned on this journey is that life is fragile, you know. As an emergency care practitioner, I constantly get reminded how quickly things can change, you know. But I also get reminded of the resilience of the human spirits, basically how people can fight through the worst circumstances and come out stronger. There was a case where a patient's heart had stopped, and after performing CPR for what felt like an eternity, you know, they came back, you know. So watching them recover over weeks, because I took it upon myself to, when in some cases I'll just follow up on patients, go visit them. Let's say I transported that patient to that certain hospital, and maybe a week later I'm going there with another patient. I take it upon myself to actually go and check up on how they're doing, you know. So when I get there, I found that the patient was actually recovering, you know, and that was a powerful reminder to me that what we do in emergency medical care actually do matter, you know. And as we step into this new year, I hope this story inspires you, not only people in emergency medical care, like anyone at home, you know, at your workplace. Please get inspired and appreciate the little things, you know, and hold on to hope even in the toughest moments, because I believe that it's not just us performing medical care or emergency medical care that save lives, it's also the patients, you know. Some patients have that fighting spirits, and it's what keeps them going, which is why I'm saying I hope you will get inspired. And I, for one, don't give up easily. I don't think there is anyone in medical field that just do CPR and just give up. It takes a while, you know, because then it's like you making a decision to say, okay, I'm stopping now. I'm stopping. You know, I'm no longer trying to bring this person to life. We know that their heart has stopped, but because we've been trained, and sometimes, if God allows it, patients do come back, depending on what was the cause. We are able to reverse some of the causes. Not all, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're not God, but we are trained to reverse most of the emergencies, you know, that causes cardiac arrest. And if, again, I would repeat, if God allows it, they do come back and they do fully recover. So please do not take this life lightly, please just hold on and keep going forward. Look at me getting all emotional, but it is what it is about today, and it is a day in the life of emergency medical care. Okay, this has been a very emotional topic for today, but I just want to add some fun, into the mix and tell you about the plans for this year. I know if you've listened to the first episode, which was aired on the New Year's Day, you understand that we just knew, but the depth of where this is going, it's actually very important that you guys ask your questions if you have any. If you also want to be featured into Behind the Sirens SA, please don't hesitate to leave the comment below, or you can contact me on my other social media, which is where I got most of the questions. On my Instagram, it is at Nomty Mvula on Instagram. And those that know me, they have my WhatsApp number. Unfortunately, I cannot give it out here, but they're able to reach out to me and ask some questions. Or when I'm on call, I get several questions. So I'll be doing a Q&A session today as well. And in future, I have guests. So please make sure that you share the details of this podcast, because one day someone might be our guest in the show, and you wouldn't want to miss that. Or maybe your role model will soon be a guest in our show, and you wouldn't want to miss that. So please do keep in touch. And with that being said, let's move on to your guys' questions, and I am so happy to be able to answer your questions today. Let's dive into the first question. So first question says, what inspired you to become an emergency care practitioner? That's a great question. Despite what I've already told you, if you've been listening and you stayed here till this end, you've heard my story. The second thing that inspired me was the fact that I was in the rural areas of KwaZulu-Natal, and all I could see in ambulances was males, adult males. And I hadn't seen a woman in an ambulance, or even a younger person. So that's where my curiosity started, and I did some research and got information and went and did basic life support, and got qualification as a BLS. Second question is, what's the most challenging case you've ever faced? One case that stands out for me, it was a truck accident that happened in the highway. So it was a truck with other vehicles, and I had to prioritize who needed help first. Basically, if you are an emergency care practitioner and you arrive first on scene, you are automatically in charge of that incident scene. So meaning that I had to coordinate with other emergency teams, which is incredibly stressful for me, because I am tiny, and I don't have what is called a paramedic voice. Over the years, I still haven't found my paramedic voice, meaning that I have to be loud, I have to give clear instructions, but as stressful as it was, in that moment, my training kicked in, and I knew exactly how to manage that scene, because scene management is also part of the training in emergency care practitioner. So I had to prioritize who needed help first, made sure that I called fire if fire was required, SAPS, other ambulances, planned patient transport ambulances. I was on the roll, and I did very well, because it happened in one of the biggest highways in Joburg. Within minutes, the media was there. I also had to attend to the media now. They wanted to know who's injured, who's going where, and yeah, that is one of the most challenging cases that I've ever faced. Remember, that was not just me doing medical care, it was basically me being in charge of the whole scene and in charge of overseeing which patient needed to be transported via road, which ones needed a flight, and all that. Did we need a fire, as I said? So yeah, that was a moment for me. And I also, in that moment, the survivor's recovery was a reminder of why this work is worth it, because I had to make sure that patients are transported to the most appropriate hospitals where they will get help. But teamwork on that day played a role, to be honest, because as much as I was in charge of the scene, if colleagues didn't listen to me, it wasn't gonna work. But I was glad, as tiny as I was, people were actually listening to what I was saying. So yeah, that's I hope that answers the question. That question says, how do you balance your demanding job with personal life? This is definitely a challenge for me. It's actually about prioritizing self-care. So I do that by making sure that on my off days I would just do training. Either I go to gym or I just train at home, do my skincare routines, go out to coffee dates, go out to solo dates, or catch up on my favorite series. I also try and spend time with the kids, maybe take them out to a park, or we just go out to their favorite restaurants where they can get to spend time with me, because yeah, I'm a mom and I always get a complaint that you leave early in the morning when you're going to work and come back at night. So when I'm off, at least they get to spend time with me, and that's how I get to catch up and still feel that I am part of the family, but still give my best at the job when I'm on duty. Thank you for those great questions. I think I've managed to at least answer those 3 questions for today. And on the next episode, I'll answer more questions. But before I end the show, I also want to give you a quick question. Like, I want to hear from you. Like, what do you think are the qualities of a great emergency care practitioner? So please do answer on the comments below, or if you don't mind, you can also share your thoughts on my social media, which is Instagram. You can DM me at Nomty Mvula, and I'll sure read your questions, and if they need reply, I'll sure reply. Before we close, please don't forget to like, comment, and also share this podcast with anyone who might find this helpful or inspiring. Your support will help this podcast grow and reach more listeners. And don't forget that I'll be back next week with another exciting episode. Until then, stay safe and take care.